Water pump failure on your Mercedes, how to diagnose it. Okay, so this is your Mercedes water pump, or one of the pumps. This is what's called a short pump. It was used, it's a 110, 200, 2020. It was used on cars with M110 engines and M130 engines and some M180 engines. And this is the long pump. This is part number 110, 200, 17, 20, 80. It's actually a rebuilt number, and I saved an old one for you. And this is used on a lot of the 300Ds and 300D turbos and stuff like that. You could tell this is a pretty gross, well-worn pump. So we're going to talk about all the things that go wrong in these pumps, but we're going to talk about the two part numbers, and then we're going to talk about how to diagnose when there's a problem and what goes wrong on them. So let's start here. I'm going to use this 110, 200, 2020 pump because everything on it is a lot easier to see. The first signs of water pump failure often begin with a mystery leak, a puddle of coolant under your Mercedes early in the morning when you go out to start it. You'll see a little bit of coolant, or you'll see coolant dripping down the front of the engine after you shut the car off. Something, you'll just see coolant appearing out of nowhere. You might inspect all your hoses and your radiator, but the fact it's dripping off the oil pan or the front of the engine makes no sense to you. Well, I have a solution. Your water pump may have blown out its main seal and is leaking through one of these weep holes. And the way to check this is a little risky, but has to be done. Wait till the engine is cool and thread your finger down underneath the pump. You want to get your finger over this hole, withdraw your finger, see if there is coolant on it, or get a bright light and see if you see coolant coming out of the hole, or look for a white residue trail if the coolant leak is so intermittent that it's hard to find. Now, all Mercedes water pumps have these, even the 117 pumps or the 119 pumps, the 603 pumps and smaller engines, the 606 pumps, they all have these bleed holes because what they did not want was a vacuum forming on the seal and a major leak to occur. So these stabilize the atmospheric pressure in here. They're not here so that coolant can leak out of them. The real problem is a seal. It's not the pump itself, or it's not the fact that there's a hole here. So blocking the hole does not fix the underlying leakage, just in case you're curious about that. Now, the other things that happen to these water pumps that may be harder to determine is that the front bearing in the pump can go. And this is particularly more of a problem on the 17, 20, 80 pump. By the way, this pump from Mercedes, $39.50 the $5 car. And again, the part number is 110, 200, 17, 20, 80. $5 course. So it ends up being like $43.50 wholesale. Very good deal. So what ends up happening with these pumps is the bearing here in the end of the water pump shaft goes out. And when the bearing in the shaft goes out, you get some wiggling. And this can happen too on the 2020 pump. You can actually take the fan, wobble the fan, and you can see the shaft moving. And if you have a 280 SL, because the tolerances are so tight, you will actually see the water pump hitting the crank pulley. You will actually hear them going clang, clang, clang as they hit each other. So that might be a good sign. Now, some of the bigger pumps for the V8 cars or the 6.3 liter pump, they're still available from Mercedes too. I think the pump for the 6.3 is the most expensive at $1,100, followed by a 300 SL or an add-an-hour pump, which is around $950. But they get a lot cheaper from there. A water pump for an M117 engine is like $250 for a rebuilt pump with a core. On some of these V8 pumps, be sure to chase all the threads for the thermostat and auxiliary aluminum housings in these pumps, because all the rebuilt pumps seem to have issues with their threads being way too tight. So chase the threads. Maybe because of the cleaning process, they're shrinking or something like that. But that's the number one failure point. Also, be careful of broken bolts. Bolts do like to break on these things. And when your bolts break, then there's really not much you can do. That's something that you then you pull the housing and you drill it out. Now, if your bolts break off in the block of your V8 car, that's a whole other video. But at least in the 6-cylinder cars, the diesel cars, the 601 to 603 engine cars, the pump lives in its own separate housing. So that's really nice. Anyway, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. And if you're one of our Patreons, then we'll get back to you as soon as possible. But if you need our help, we're always here to help you free of charge, in case anyone wonders. Please like, share, and subscribe, and tap the bell for notifications. And we'll see you in the next video about maintaining your classic Mercedes.
Good.